So, all right, let me kind of open it. Can I open it for questions? Are we okay? Let's go ahead and have questions. We've got the building till 9 o'clock, I think. Wait a minute, no, questions, what do you got? Yes, sir. Speak loud, I'm old and deaf.
For people who are aspiring to project managers, especially the youth, people who aren't in management positions, what can we do now in our education or on our jobs? So what activities can we do to prepare ourselves to further our process?
Yeah, great. That's a great, for a junior, that's a good question. That really is. That's in depth. Well, let me tell you, I think it's a very good point. Here's what's happening in the educational business. Over the last, I'd say probably 5 to 10 years, depending on what country you're in, project management curriculum has become a part of the college experience. It's a class, regular class. Many colleges in the U.S. give bachelor's degrees in project management. There are some master's degrees. I even know a PhD in project management. That's kind of a waste of time there, but a PhD in project management. So the educational system is trying to keep up. But you got to take it on yourself to, here's what I did. I started volunteering to run community projects. Free. I mean, I just go out and say, look, I'm a project manager. I'd love to be able to help you with this community development project. They say, oh, heck, we always need project managers. We always need volunteers. That's how you get the baptism, because now you got to learn, I'm running a project with no budget, no additional resources but me. So you want to figure out an effective way to do that. And that's the best way to do it, is to get the education if you have. I think there's some classes here in project management, are there not? Yeah. So they're offering those classes now. And what you can do with that is once the light goes on, once the fire starts burning in your belly, you'll start to say, well, what else can I get? And you'll start to look for other opportunities to do that. And pretty soon, we hire people right out of college all the time because they have had enough coursework and applied that in volunteer environments that they've proven themselves. We were on a radio show. What was that radio show the other day?
Immediate response or?
Yeah, the old guy with the red coat.
This morning? Today?
Was it today?
Spence Vincent.
Yeah, okay, sure, that guy. He asked me, he said, well, what, if you were looking for a project manager, you come into an organization, you're looking for a project manager, where would you look? And this is what I told him, and this is what it should be your thinking as well. I told him I would look for those individuals in the organization that have extremely high performance levels. They are darn good at what they do. And I can take a person that's darn good at what they do and turn them into a project manager in a heartbeat. Because that's what they do. It's just a matter of sometimes even just terminology can make the difference. So I think as a junior is the time you start thinking seriously about it. You can pick some of the stuff as a sophomore, but as a junior, you're getting close to the real world. And that's the best way to do it. Go to a company. Go to a company that does the kind of things that we're talking about. Volunteer to work as an intern. I'll work for you free, and show them what you can do. And then when you graduate, guess where you have a job waiting for you? Right there. Right there. Internships are big time payoff in terms of project management because you get a chance to prove what you can do. We hire a lot of people out of college that haven't proven anything. They really haven't. I mean, I'm not degrading students, but I'm just saying they haven't worked yet. Well, I want somebody that I know their performance levels are high, their standards are high, they hold themselves accountable for what they do. And so I think that's the best way to do that. Fantastic. Good question. What else?
Lee, just moving ahead, can you repeat the questions as they come?
So sure, sorry. I forget it's on this. No, I'm very happy to be doing online. I'm so glad we did that.
Yes.
How many do we have online?
40.
100?
40 now,
20?
40
Oh, 40.
now.
Now, how many were there? 100?
They were
Just under 50.
You see what she says? We have a lot till I introduce you.
No.
All right, yes, ma'am.
They have student chapters of the PMD.
Do they have one?
Student chapters, that students can
Uh,
start to get certified.
No, the answer is no. The question was, do they have PMI chapters here? The answer is no. These guys are supposed to get. I'm trying to leverage them into a PMI chapter. They're fighting it, but we're gonna do it. The beauty of PMI as an organization is that it's truly global. There are 305 chapters in the world. The biggest chapter is Washington DC with 12,000 members. Japan is second with 8,000 members, and it goes down. But generally speaking, they average about 2,000 people. That's 2,000 people from around the community with varying disciplines getting together on an occasional basis and exchanging information. That's how learning takes place. So PMI, that's what they do. That's why they're allowing me to do this. I approached PMI a year ago. I said, here's what I want to do. And I told them about my plan. And I said, I'll do it, and I'll do it for free if I can do it when I want, where I want, and how I want. They bought it. They bought it. So that's what I've been doing. And the feedback's been good. I mean, we've actually had people contact us about job opportunities as a result of some of these sessions. So it's a way to network. Networking is where it's at. I've been employed a total of 4 days in my career. 4 days. And the reason for that is the guy I was calling to get a job was on vacation, of all things. Networking is what it's all about. You're not gonna get jobs from OneAd, you're not gonna get them from Indeed or Green Door, whatever those things are. You're gonna get them from somebody who knew somebody who knew somebody. That's how you're gonna get them, because you need somebody to vouch for you. Yeah, oh, Lee, oh, heck yeah, we've been known him for, he's good. If you're looking for somebody, that's the guy. And that's the way you wanna get it. You wanna build that reputation so that there's no question, am I gonna be unemployed? No, there's no question. The question you're gonna have to answer is, which job do I wanna take? That's the job you're gonna have to answer. That's a lot better job than going home to husband and wife and going, oh God, I don't know if I'm ever gonna get a job. So, I mean, I'm not guaranteeing a job, don't get me wrong. It really makes a big difference. And for the ladies in the group, good news for the ladies, over 50% of our workforce in the United States are women. It's not quite that high in the project management field, but it's getting there. It's getting there. So you don't have to be a man, you don't have to be a woman, you have to be someone who wants to be a project manager. And we've proven that time and time again. In fact, when I hire all women. And my wife passed away, so it's okay now. But I hire all women. And when I go to these meetings, Andrew can talk about this, we take selfies. I'm a big selfie guy, okay? I got a note from PMI last week that said, why are all your selfies with women? Aren't there any men in this group? I said, oh yeah, but who wants a picture day with me? So the women force is big. And I'm gonna say something that's a little questionable, I get criticized. I actually think in many ways, women are better project managers. They're a little more methodical in their thinking. They're a little more risk approach to think about risk.
I'm surprised.
And those are some attributes that are really important for a project manager. And so I think that whether you're a man or woman, the opportunities are pretty much the same. I mean, it's around 50%, 50-50. So I don't think it has any relevance to that. Yes, ma'am.
There's a question from Russell Parker, who's joining us from New York. He saw this on LinkedIn and he decided to jump in. Russell's question is, with the PMP going 50% traditional, 50% agile, and the PMI-ACP becoming more and more popular, what are your thoughts, Lee, on hybrid PM, since you're not the biggest fan of Agile?
Is he in the New York chapter?
What say ye, Russell? Are you a part of the New York chapter? He's gonna let us know.
Yeah, Frank Salatis is the chapter president. Here, I got, one of the things about me is kind of fun.
New Jersey.
New Jersey? Well, that's even worse. Okay. All right. No, just kidding. One of the things that I think is probably good about me, I'm fairly truthful about this. Because I created the PMP, which there are about 1.5 million of them now, okay? I take a serious interest in the exam. And people will tell you, they tell me all the time, it's the most difficult exam they've ever taken. These are people that have gone through master's programs, PhDs. It's the most difficult exam I've ever taken. And the reason for that is we don't want just any schlock guy going into that job as project manager. They need to understand what it's all about and what it takes to be good. Now, the problem is with Agile coming along as it has, and it sort of went gangbusters in the beginning. It's slowed a little now, but the fact of the matter was, in order to keep current, we had to make modifications to the exam to cover that new half of the business. I mean, 50% of what we call the PMBOK, which is the Bible of project management, it's now about 50-50, 50 predictive or waterfall and 50 agile. And so if I'm going to prepare to take the exam, if I were to prepare to take the exam, I'd have to actually study pretty hard because I don't know agile that well. But people who are in the working world, working all the time, I haven't worked since '84, working all the time, they're going to be exposed to that. They're going to be picking that up as they go into the working environment. So they don't have quite the mountain to climb that I would if I were to take that exam again. The missing piece that we worry about is that some people who took the exam 30 years ago still are PMPs because you renew every 3 years, but they haven't gone back and refreshed on Agile. They just they get their 60 continuing education use PDUs and they renew. Well, they're still just predictive people. I'd be one of them. So we're wrestling with that right now. How do we bring those PMPs that have been around a long time? How can they really still say they're PMPs when those that have come after them have much more knowledge? So it is an issue that we have to deal with. So I think it has to be. There's no alternative. Now I've heard arguments that there's way more than 50-50. That's more like 70 or 80% agile. I can't confirm that, so I don't know. But that's something that we have to pay attention to. Yeah, I got a question.
Yeah, I don't think it's an either. I think one of the mistakes that we're making in the project management space is that we're treating it as either or. Either old PMP or new Agile. I think that for the most part, they coexist. Because if you're doing projects all the time, the truth of the matter is you whether you old PMP, whether you know it or not, you're still using some of the Agile, what we now accept as Agile concepts. Sure. You've always been doing it. So it isn't either or. To me, it's more of both sides.
No, I think that's accurate.
Yeah.
No, that's accurate. There's no question in my mind about that. What we see is, unless you're in a real straightforward IT project, you're not going to see pure Agile. You're going to see hybrid. You're going to use some predictive. You're going to use some Agile. You're going to use what you need to use to be effective. That's the beauty of this process. Is it puts the onus on you to select what's the best. We call it now in PMI way of working. So we've given you some guidelines, but now you got to choose. What's the best way to do it?
I think you better explain the difference between predictive and agile.
Say that again?
Explain the difference between predictive and...
Oh, yeah. Predictive. Now, this is again one of those complicated things. I'm not sure you'll get it or not, but let me try. Okay? Predictive means that the work that you're going to do is predictive. Is that cleared up for you? Yeah. Well, what it means is basically, there's a process by which I can anticipate what's gonna happen over time, and it's relatively predictable, okay? That's predictive, but we tend to gradually move to the word waterfall, hybrid. So now waterfall and predictive are the same thing, okay? But now we're using hybrid, knowing that there's gonna be a little this and a little that. So rather than it's an agile or it's predictive, we're gonna call it a hybrid. And that's what this is. This is a in-person meeting, but it's a hybrid because we got 40 or 50 people online. And that's the same kind of idea that we would have, okay? But you're absolutely right. It's not either or. No, there's no way. Some people like, the old guys like me, like to think of it sometimes, but it's not. All right, any other questions?
Yes, Lee, you have a question from Elva Carey. I am interested in the PMP certification. Should I be taking the PMP Agile instead?
Well, there's 1.5 million of the PMP phase 1, if you want to call it that. The ACP, which is the Agile Certification Certified Professional, is the second most popular certification we have, but there's only 60,000 of them. So that's because it was late to the game. I mean, Agile's only been certifying for 5-6 years compared to 1984 when we started the PMP process. So, but my answer, this may be my personal answer, he should ask more people. My personal answer is get the PMP. Get the PMP because that is rounded. You get some of both. So when you're looking for a job, for example, and you say, well, I got the ACP, and I said, well, no, our work's mostly predictive, you're out of luck. But now if I say I'm a PMP, I got 50% Agile, I got 50% predictive, hey, okay, let's talk. So I can't advise you to get ACP first. This came up I was in Bulgaria last week, and this same question came up. Which certification should I get? Well, I always say start with the big one, PMP. Yes. Do you have a question? Oh, you're just scratching your head? Okay, sorry. Yes.
What were some of the challenges you faced when you first started Project
I'm sorry.
What were some of the challenges you faced when you first started with Project
Not recognizing how important people's skills were. Because when you look at project management, you set out a plan, you have milestones to measure progress, and you start kicking butt, man. Get out there and get it done. Well, what I found was productivity is driven by the way I relate to people.
Yes.
And if I'm a tyrant, they're not going to be productive. They'll do what they have to do, and that's it. But my reputation came about developing high-performance teams. I had teams on occasion that would work 14 hours a day, 7 days a week for 18 months. No overtime because of the relationship I had with the people. Because we knew how important it was to the organization, they were willing to invest that. So that's what I found most difficult. I didn't find the technical side. The technical side is just logical thinking. I mean, really, it's not brain surgery. It's pretty logical thinking. Where it falls apart is if you mistreat people, if you don't develop relationships with people, and you need those people, and they look at you and say, sorry, I'm not in it for you. That's what we have to do. So that'd be the biggest problem you run into. How are you on a relationship development? Okay. You sure? All right, what else? More questions?
Do we have any more questions? Lucy?
You can also ask the minister questions if you would like.
See, you got volunteer.
Well, I'm told.
I have a question.
Shoot.
Good evening. My question is towards project managers. What is the key to working, transitioning from between different countries and different cultures? What do you think is the main key thing to have or to use when you juggling?
I found that unfortunately, the biggest challenge I find, even in Saudi and places I felt like they've come along, is that there's still this sense of anarchism, sense of, look, you do it my way. Okay? Don't disagree with me. I mean, in some of these countries, if you disagree, that's the last time you disagree. So you got to be a little bit careful about that. But I think that's what I've run into more often than not. And even in those, even in Bulgaria's a class, well, Africa's even a better example. They've now begun to realize. I got to meet with the minister of, I got to meet with the president of Benin in Africa. And their big issue was just that. How do we get people in our country motivated to be project managers? How do we get them to motivate to do anything in project management? That's the issue of building the relationship. So what I told them was, and this is kind of what this is have a session with a minister there, showing the support of the government. And then what happens is everybody goes home and goes, damn, the minister was there. We better do what they're going to go home tonight and say, oh, the senator was there. Okay, we better do this. He's going to tell people about us. And so you got to look at it that way. It's sort of, it's called peer pressure. And we start to put peer pressure on. And now I'm going to go back to Benin, and we're going to hold a big conference like this. And the amount of people that are going to come are crazy because the president is going to. I mean, people are deaf and dumb are going to show up. People they have no idea, but they know the president asked, so they're going to do that. So I think you have to decide what are the fundamental technical components of project management, and then what's the fundamental human side, because that's where things get done. That's where things get done. If it's going to take 12 hours to get something done, you can get people to work 12 hours for free if you have a relationship. Okay? All right, anything else? Did we hold them long enough? I mean, these are students. They got homework to do.
And it's 7:00.
Yeah, right. Yes.
I think I want to piggyback on something you mentioned earlier about relationships.
Okay.
I think I came to agree with that. I thought it was about the processes, and understanding and knowledge areas. That is true, right? But I realized it's about educating heavily. It's about listening. It's about understanding what you want. And I came to understand one fundamental thing about quality. What quality is a relation. You could build this house and you might be the best carpenter in the world. You have expectations. But you might want this specifically. And I'm just showing off my skill. Like the project here, very simple detail of this white.
Well, I think you have to understand that when you're in project management and you get a directive, let's call it a directive, okay? It's going to look like this. Unless you've got a valid reason, unless there's some justification, it's going to look like this. I mean, that's what we've designed, that's what we've developed, that's what we've processed. By communicating you with me, and you say, wait, man, I don't think it has to look like that. I think there's a better way we can do that. If I'm closed-minded and say, no, God, we're doing it like this, then I'm being a fool. Because what I can gain from your idea, your innovative thinking, might take it to the next level. I haven't even thought about it. Yeah, no, you're dead on. In fact, I would go so far, I sort of said relationship development, I'm going to go just a little bit farther, communication. It's all about communication. And effective communication is so important. It's like, well, that isn't what he said. Well, that's what I thought I said. Well, no, I don't care what you thought you said. Here's what you said. So we need to have feedback. We need to have understanding between us. If I say something and you look at me like, wait a minute, what? I don't get it. Well, if you don't ask me, I'm going to ask you, did I make that clear or not? Because if I don't, when am I going to find out it wasn't clear?
At the wrong time.
When she delivers me the wrong thing.
No.
Then I'm going to say, then it makes you look bad. No, what the hell is this? Well, that's what I thought you asked for. No, that's not what I asked for. What's the matter with you? But in a very positive way. I think it's important that you understand. Okay? All right, what else else you got? Yes, sir.
This question, if I may, so I've seen.
Yeah, stand up so these guys can hear you.
Can you come and answer on the mic, online?
Okay, good.
Attendees can't hear.
I just wanted to ask that hearing the importance of project management as a growing demand and how important it is to a developing economy. Do you, from your perspective, see this as a very important field that is growing within our economy, and what industries can we expect to see this growth moving forward?
Yeah, I think it's very important. I'm very happy I stayed for all of the presentations. And I think the next step is to have a connection between the institute. That, so that we can build the capacity for the project managers. And so, open the lines of communication so we know what's available in terms of capacity and skill. And you, the association, knows what's available in terms of opportunity. So what I see going from here is the need to establish a connection so we have that information flow in both ways. But I think it's very, very important, provides opportunities and opportunities to build capacity amongst our people.
So I noticed. Wow.
Told.
How we doing, mics? Good night, everybody. So I know this kind of strays away from project management to an extent that it's a problem our country kind of has, in that we have projects, but it's usually the maintenance of the item after the fact that causes a problem. So case in point, we start a project, we build a building, and we find in 10 years everything falls apart, or we push off a project, and yes, the project is completed, but after the fact, we find that, and of course, we, during elections and everything else, changes in administration, this falls away, this is no longer sustainable, et cetera, et cetera. So, like I said, with projects, it's more temporary endeavor, meaning you get the job done and move on. But the transition from projects to operations or projects to maintenance, any suggestions in that regard?
Yeah, well, this is one of the areas of Agile where Agile pays off. Because in a real Agile application, I'm gonna find that problem before it goes operational. Now, if I'm gonna discover, hey, I don't think that's gonna work right, or that's not gonna be able to be maintained. You're gonna discover that before you turn the keys over to the owner.
There's one more question online. Alpha Zonico, two more. Alpha Zonico asks, what common mistakes do project managers make when working in an agile environment?
Oh, you better take that one.
Common problems that project managers make when working in an agile environment. I gotta go to the mic, okay? None. When you work in an agile environment, you rarely make mistakes because of the constant feedback that you get from your customers, which is different from, like we said, about the predictive or waterfall cycle where you plan everything up front and then you deliver your product at the end. Agile have you working in sprints. So you work incrementally and you get constant feedback once you deliver your product. And every sprint, you're supposed to deliver a minimal viable product, which shows value. Everything you deliver is value. So your customer tells you right off the bat, this is not what I asked for, go back to the drawing board. So that eliminates your rework, like Mr. Lambert says, and that also eliminates a lot of the errors that may present themselves. So before your final product goes to the market, you have so many feedback that it's a better way of working. And that's why project management has actually evolved, because you found that even in the software development industry, when persons would come up with a product, an idea for a product, they start to work on it. They work on it, they work on it, they work on it. Months later, they put it in the market. Technology has already changed. The product is no longer viable. It has no value. So that's why the Agile Manifesto was created by 10 guys who went up to a ski lodge, and they were software developers. And they realized that the way they were working was not working. We have to change the way that we work because we are building products that brings no value. So when I say that Agile has no errors, we find those problems quicker. So that when the product is actually put in the hands of the consumer, that's what the consumers want. And even if it's every sprint, you deliver value. So if the project ends, you have a minimal viable product that we call in the Agile world, you ship it. So it may not go through the whole phase, but once the customer or the product owner sees that the value has been achieved and they want to end it, you still have a product that can go to market.
Another question, what is some advice, this is from Dominique, what is some advice for a CSPO working with a PM on a project?
Okay, first of all, let me define those acronyms. I don't know why we like to shoot those acronyms out, but anyway, the CSPO is a Certified Scrum Product Owner. And what was the next acronym in that question?
Working with a PM on a project.
Okay, I'll repeat the question.
What is some advice for a CSPO working with a PM on a project?
Well, those are just titles. A CSPO, Certified Scrum Product Owner, and a Project Manager. Sometimes you have the crossover in the work space where you have all these different titles. But when you enter the Agile world, the Certified Scrum Product Owner is actually the representative of the sponsor or the owner of that product or the heads of the organization. They represent the organization working on that product. So anyone who works with that product owner, they're a part of a Scrum team. So a product owner is responsible for the Scrum team, which is made up of Scrum team members. So you could have the Certified Scrum Master, and then you have the Scrum team, which composes the developers or whoever else is a part of that particular team. Now, a Scrum team should be 10 persons or less, but it's the Certified Scrum Product Owner's job to relay to that Scrum team the value and the requirements or the objectives of the organization in terms of what should be built by that team. The project manager does not necessarily have a role. We are mixing the terminologies. Project manager normally is found in a different space from Agile. That's just a title. Because when you deal with a Scrum team, it's a Scrum team. You don't have titles, if that makes sense.
I guess piggyback of that question, I guess this will be a combination between you guys. If in any event there was a project where project management and Agile combined, and you have a CSP and a PM, like how would that dynamic work?
Just like how me and Lee work. Lee represents project management. And he always says that I represent Agile because I'm talking to him constantly about Scrum and Kanban, and he's like, oh, Andrea, not this again. So we took a drive around the island, and Lee was like, if I hear you say Kanban one more time. So, it's just like Lee and I, we represent two different types of project management because like he said, project management is your top term, and everything else is a subsidiary of project management. So Agile is just a methodology, and frameworks come underneath Agile. So I describe it like Agile is the umbrella, and Scrum, Kanban, Lean, Crystal, all of those frameworks, they come underneath the Agile umbrella. So we get along quite fine.
No, wait a minute, let me answer that. That's a good answer. It's a good answer, wrong, but good. No, here's what happened. When Agile came on the scene, my phone went nuts because all these people that had earned their PMP were starting to say, well, wait a minute, I've done all this for PMP, now you're telling me I gotta be an Agile person. So what about my PMP? What we have is the project manager role changed dramatically. with Agile. And what most of the project managers, if they stayed in that Agile environment, they became a communication facilitator. That was really the role. It was not an authoritative role. It was a facilitative role. So it did change dramatically. And a lot of people were upset with the fact that they'd worked this hard to become a certified project manager, and now you're saying you're a note taker, or so I mean, it's the way it works. The way it works.
You had a question, sir?
Yeah, my question is, I did the PMP, the recent one, right? I did that.
Okay.
So it had combined the predictive model and Agile. And so I don't think it's necessarily fair to separate the two, from my experience with it. I think it's building a more like, making it a hybrid.
Yes.
Because in some instances, you can't use Agile method.
Okay.
Certain projects cannot make that work because iterations and increments won't work. But that doesn't mean that you can apply some of the methods within that and make an effective project. So there shouldn't be a distinction in anybody's mind. PMP, project management, should always be fundamental because it has the core processes and knowledge areas, and Agile just enhances it.
Exactly.
But you have to use them. You need that wisdom. You need to know when to apply, how to apply,
Exactly.
make it effective.
Exactly.
Nothing separate. So PMP, the first shot, enhance it with Agile. That's how I would do it, and I wouldn't tell you anything different.
Well, you are correct. So the gentleman said that there should be no distinction between the PMP and Agile, that they should complement each other and we should implement whatever works best for us in our work environment, which I totally agree with. But also, the Project Management Institute has also realized that, because I don't know if you're aware, they implemented micro-credentials. So right now they have the Agile Hybrid Project Pro, which is a micro-credential that PMP holders can take to supplement their credential as a PMP holder. So PMI has realized that the industry of project management has evolved. So they, as an institution, an accrediting body, has evolved or is trying to evolve. They may not be evolving as rapidly as other accrediting bodies in the Agile world because, Scrum Alliance is a big thing. And then you have a lot of other institutions coming along and trying to capture the market. So PMI realizes that there's competition. And with competition, they have to be innovative in what they're offering. So they're now even trying to separate the whole construction part of project management into its own now separate box. So now they have what is called as the as-built certifications. So construction project managers could have continuous learning. And that's the key part about it. And that's what I want you to get here. It's all about continuous learning. We can't expect to earn a PMP 10 years ago and still feel as though our credential is relevant is today. You have to maintain your skill set. Yeah. The world changes, so why do we feel if I get this certification or this credential 10 years ago, this is still applicable on my job now?
There's a question from Robert Pitter. Is it possible during the delivery of a product in an agile environment that feedback can result in very significant changes? If so, how is that navigated?
I think it is possible. Because take, for example, the world of technology. You could start working on a product, and then some other competitor brings out something you're working on, but you haven't delivered it to market as yet. So why would you continue working on something that someone else has already put out in the market? So you now have to re-strategize what you're developing. And you have options. Either you cancel it altogether, scrap the project, or you go back to your team, you go back to the board, or go back to the organization, you include your certified Scrum product owner, your certified Scrum master, you bring in your Scrum team, you have a conversation. Listen, we were developing this technological product, but we realized IBM then drop it. IBM has it on the market. This is the same thing. And what do? You don't want to bring out the same product. You want to bring out a better product. So you go back, you do your market research, and you say, well, let me see the capabilities of what they put out there, and let's make it better. We can compete with them, but we shouldn't put out the same thing. We have to put out something better.
So just shouting out that Omar is in Puerto Rico.
Yes. Hey, Omar.
And he is managing the conversation on the Zoom chat.
Yes.
And Omar piggybacks on this comment here and he says, in answer to Robert, it depends on the feedback and what the client establishes is a priority.
Yeah.
The roadmap,
Yes.
as it were, would change. That said, it has to be approved by the customer and they have to know that changes will be made.
Very good. Thank you, Omar.
Can I jump in?
Oh, Omar is one of our team members with Bahamas Agile and Project Management Community. Unfortunately, he was not able to be with us in person, but he is with us online. And yes, Omar, you can speak. I think we can hear you.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. Glad to virtually meet you all. Lee, I enjoyed everything. I've been laughing like crazy here to all your comments. But to answer Robert's question, when you're doing an Agile implementation, if it results in significant changes, that potentially means you did not conduct a POC, which is a proof of concept. So that means that from one point analysis wasn't conducted. Now, if a significant changes means that you have to scrap the product, if you scrap the product, that in essence, there has to be some negotiation with your customer, because that means that there was a lot of work that was implemented in that really means that something went wrong. In one point, and Lee pointed to it, it's communication. The point of Agile is to actually gather that communication beforehand. So instead of probably if something with severe changes, you're telling me that maybe it could be 3 to 6 months in, something happened in communication. And that's something that Agile tries to avoid. Now, there was another question that I wanted to address, the difference between a project manager and a product owner. And that's where we enter the difference between what is project management and product management. See, the project management has a start and an end, but the product management, which is something that then leads to what is product-led, means that you keep getting to know your customer, getting to analyze what the customer does, how it uses your tool, and how you can improve that to solve an actual problem. So there's a big difference between that. Yes, I agree, they can work in tandem, and it depends on the maturity of the company and what works best for them. But there's a difference that we have to establish, that a project means that manager will go on to solve something else. But a product owner, a product manager, that product stays. So there has to be that clear distinction between one and the other.
Thank you for your clarifications, Omar. Just to let you guys know, Omar is a certified Scrum product owner. Thank you, Omar. We are just about to the end of our session. Sophia.
I'm the closer. I'm the closer. Thank you so much to all of you. You staying till the end, yay.